I'm trying to get harder and tougher mentally and physically every day of my life.
You're either the growth mindset or you're the fixed mindset.
If you're trying to be the best, you need to look at who the best is and see what they do.
Relentless pursuit of progress.
There's a difference between the best and the rest.
Welcome to the Brute Strength Podcast.
Champions are built in the mind first.
Where we interview scientists, world champions, doctors, and experts in just about every area of health and fitness.
What do you care enough about? What are you fascinated enough about to go so deep and learn so much that you'll know more about it than anyone else?
And now, here's your host, Markus Gerszi.
Hey, and welcome back. This week I'm interviewing my friend Markus Gerszi again. Markus is the CEO and founder of Gym Breakthrough, where he helps gym owners, business owners transform their lives and their business. I first met him in about 2014, I believe, 2015. Same day I met Adi at a barbell business mastermind. He was on their team. And since then, he has consulted with us at Brute, at WAG, and he's helped us really level up all of the things that we do in both companies. And he's been one of the most consistent and ethical people that I've met in this industry. In this show in particular, we start out talking about his morning routine, which is just absolute fire. And since then, I have picked up a handful of things that he does because at the end of this routine, I just felt absolutely incredible. So we dive into what he's doing and why. We talk about what he calls giving information versus transformation and what he's trying to do in his current business. And he keeps reinventing the way that he's coaching and guiding business owners. Nowadays, he is focused on helping facilitate transformation rather than just giving some education and information. We talk about tactics versus vision and purpose and high-level strategy and how he's evolving those over time. We talk about some mindset shifts that business owners have to make to be successful. We talk about priority and task management and really geek out over that. That's been a huge obstacle for me in my career. It sounds like it was for Markus as well. And I know a lot of you can probably relate. Knowing what to do and when, and then having a system for actually getting those things done efficiently is really make or break for entrepreneurs. And we talk about some different strategies for making that happen. And we talk about some other stuff that's pretty awesome. Markus is one of my favorite people to talk to. And so I know you're going to get a lot out of this show. So please help me welcome Markus Gerszi. This episode is brought to you by WAG. My wife, Adi, started the company about 5 years ago, and 2 years ago, I joined her to help her lead the company full-time. What we do at WAG is one-on-one nutrition coaching. That's what we specialize in. We also recently started to train other nutrition coaches and to help them start their own online nutrition businesses. If you're interested in being coached by us, you can use the code BRUTE50, that's BRUTE 50 at checkout, and you can get 50% off of your first month of membership. What I love about what we do, number one is, and this is something I really admire about Adi, is that our number one value is client transformation. And I've seen her make the decision over and over and over again to improve the service versus do something that just makes her more money. And I just really, really respect that. There's such an emphasis on making sure that this remains a world-class service and that people are actually getting amazing results. And I think that's very well represented in the percentage of amazing feedback that we get, as well as the number of testimonials of people that have had just massive transformations on our website. What I love about nutrition coaching and the thing that people rave about most is the accountability aspect. There's something called the Hawthorne effect, where there was a study done, and I learned this from one of my mentors named Evan. There was this study done in a factory where they told the employees that someone was going to come in and just change the lights or look at the lights. And what happened was the employees' performance went way, way up. And what they found is that by simply having someone observe what we're doing, or thinking they're observing what we're doing, makes our performance go up. So just the fact that you have someone to be accountable to check in with, immediately makes your food decisions and your performance in your nutrition go up. It allows you to reach your goals faster than any other thing you could possibly do in your nutrition. Other things that we offer are education. When you sign up, you get access to a huge knowledge base. It's just a big download into your brain of our philosophy on nutrition. We have a ton of videos and emails that you'll receive for free when you sign up, and your education, your knowledge of nutrition will just skyrocket. You get access to a community, a really supportive and engaged Facebook community. There are a couple thousand people in there. And when you ask a question, when you ask for support, you will immediately get a shitload of responses. You'll also probably get a lot of likes, which feels good. The results, I think, speak for themselves. Again, we have something like 700 testimonials of people that have gotten unbelievable results on our website, and you can just scroll through those and find someone that's similar to you. So how it works is you sign up with us, you fill out a questionnaire. That questionnaire is then used to pair you with the best coach for you. That coach will then send you a custom nutrition plan, and then you'll go out into your life and you'll try to follow the plan. And as you encounter obstacles and challenges, you will report back to your coach, and your coach will help you strategize getting through those specific obstacles and challenges. You get a weekly check-in as well as unlimited messaging through an app that we created called Seismic. So if you're interested in being coached by us, you can use the code BRUTE50, BRUTE 50 at checkout. You can go to workingagainstgravity.com and use that code. Also, if you want to become a nutrition coach and quote unquote join the digital workforce, join the online workforce, then you can join our wait list right now at workingagainstgravity.com and click on the coach certification button. All right, let's get into this episode. Dude, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me. Stoked to be here.
So I feel high as shit right now, and yet I'm not inebriated whatsoever. Tell everybody what we just went through.
I just took you through a condensed version of part of the charge up routine that we teach our clients. So it's a morning routine.
So give people a little bit of the details and a little bit of the purpose behind each portion of it.
For sure. All right. So what I took you through was kind of the second half of what we teach people to do or encourage people to do. The way that we usually open the routine is we start with a journaling piece, and I use a series of prompts that I borrow from the incredible Dr. Nicole LePera, aka the holistic psychologist. She has something called the Future Self Journal, and this is something that we include in, just because it so beautifully addresses all the different things from the variety of different like journaling exercises and prompts that I've experimented with over the years. I feel like this one just does such a good job of addressing everything from gratitude to focusing you for the day and so on. So we start off with a little bit of journaling.
What are some of the prompts?
Well, you start off with your daily affirmation, which is you can either do one or you can do multiple. It's today I'm going to shift my pattern of, and so on. And so it's about getting you, and then I'm grateful for, and ultimately it's about really getting you tuned into a positive state and how you're going to utilize that and apply that to today specifically, and giving you a point to focus on of this is the pattern I'm going to focus on shifting today, while also saying I have, there's a time today where I'm going to focus on shifting that, and it makes you choose the time when you're going to apply that. Mm-hmm. So it's not just about, I'm going to be more present today. Right. It's I'm going to, maybe I've got a tough conversation later on with someone that I have to have, and today I'm going to show up differently. I'm going to show up the way that I want to show up rather than reacting the way I maybe have reacted in the past.
Mm-hmm. What's the benefit of getting into the positive state with those first prompts?
I think, there's so much literature on gratitude and journaling and all that. And, I think that so many of us get so caught up in just reacting to our day and our lives. And, we forget to acknowledge the positive things that are happening and that we're doing every day. And, when you are a business owner and you're trying to build something meaningful, and especially in the gym business where it's such high output, it's such high emotional output, you got to make sure you fill your cup first, because if your cup is empty, you don't have anything to give.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we were up late last night geeking out over this about like repeating things that we want our minds to spontaneously think of. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, a lot of our mental conditioning, a lot of our conditioning from our past, our parents, our society, etc., are very negative and critical. And this is just one way to start off the day to repattern our brains to think more positively, to be more constructive versus destructive.
100%.
So that's the journal portion. Then tell them the rest of it.
So the next step is I have an exercise in the program where we help people get clarity on who they are, who they're serving, and really articulating their why in a way that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up, like something where you feel so pumped up after reading this thing. So we have them do the exercise and we have them rehearse this and read it out loud as if you were presenting this to a room of 150 people who you're trying to, portray to your passion and why you do what you do and who it is that you serve and how you do it. And it's incredibly powerful. And so we have them do that because we want to rehearse. It's almost like an elevator pitch for you and your business and your drive. So
and you're reminding yourself who you are and who you're becoming.
Right. And because you practice it with gusto, rather than just, meekly reading this thing like you would read, however, just reading something out loud, you really read it with power. You're practicing saying it with power. And that's, again, we're trying to build momentum into the rest of this routine, but it's about building momentum into the day. It's about ultimately priming yourself for your day so that you go into this thing like you're ready to run through a brick wall.
Yeah. So no matter what happened the night before, no matter what argument you might have gotten into, you can still come into this and leave this routine feeling like a champ and go and accomplish it, whatever you want.
Exactly right. So once we go through that portion, the next step is to get into a breath cycle. So what I took you through was an XPT routine from Laird Hamilton. That's one I like to follow. It's a guided, about an 8 or 10 minute, I think, guided breath cycle. But what we usually have people do is just do a single cycle of Wim Hof breathing, and with a max exhale hold and then a max inhale hold. And the reason we're doing that is because, as we're oxygenating and really waking up our brain, because for the fourth step, we're going to get into a visualization. So I really want to get those juices flowing before we enter that visualization. So it's a pretty brief, about 5 minutes or so, if you're going to do the Wim Hof style. And then we go into a 20-minute visualization. And like what we did today, which is where we kick the visualization off first with going through step by step our perfect day. And this is also something we do in the program. We have them go through the perfect day exercise to really articulate what that day looks like, so they have a reference point. It's not just
so they
going
write down what their perfect day actually looks like.
Yeah,
they have some time to think about it.
Exactly. So they've already gone through this exercise, and now you're taking that and you are stepping through the day. I mean, from the time you wake up and you're looking at your ceiling and your feet hit the ground to, your morning routine, into your day, into your work, into your family time, into your evening and going back to sleep. But doing so in a way to where you're really experiencing it. And, when people first start doing this, it's challenging, because I remember when I first started doing it, it was like a picture show. It was like I'm recalling the steps from the exercise, and it's kind of, you're kind of jolting from one to the next. It wasn't very fluid.
It might feel arbitrary or something like that.
Right. But as you start to practice, and this happens really quickly, it starts to become more fluid, and it starts to become more like a movie, and eventually more like almost like a virtual reality, to where you can kind of realize at any point within the exercise, like, I want to explore this a little bit today, and just really go into whatever portion of it and change it or explore it differently today. And you're stepping through this perfect day over and over. And the reason why it starts to become this more movie-like thing is because your brain logs it as a memory. So once you rehearse things, it becomes a memory. And anything that is a memory is much easier to recall, and it changes how you subconsciously then view that activity, right? So like how a lifter, for example, who's going in to set a PR, they're going to visualize that lift over and over and over again before they go to lift, successfully. Because now when they actually get under that bar, it's going to be like, this is like the 300th time that I've done this lift, right? And so we're applying that to their ideal future, where they are trying to go. And it's incredibly powerful because you're conditioning your subconscious to feel like, well, that's my normal. I've already done that. Right. And you're just correcting behavior throughout the day. So we start with the perfect day. And then with whatever's left in the 20 minutes, we then say to focus on things that you are working on. So either challenges that you're trying to resolve, or projects that are in flight, or things that you're wanting to change, and picture yourself having already solved the problem, having already won whatever the thing is, and being in the moment of like holding the trophy and feeling the, everyone cheering at you, or whatever the thing is, right? Or maybe it's a financial thing and you're struggling financially right now, and you're imagining, opening up the app on your phone and logging in and going, man, like I remember just a year ago, I was overdrawn and struggling, and now I've got more than enough to cover rent for the next few months and pay my staff well. And it feels amazing, right? To really be in that moment and be that person that's already won. And it's so powerful.
What does that do? What does that last portion do?
Well, that's the same like the visualization for the lift, right? We're applying that. You're visualizing your own success, and it's normalizing it for you, and you are conditioning your subconscious and replacing those loops of someday maybe with I'm already that person. And ultimately what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get clear on who we want to be and where we're trying to go. And then we are putting ourselves into that state for an extended period, which 20 minutes is a very long time to sit in this state. You will find yourself going all over the place and having to pull back at first. It takes practice for sure. But the reason we do such a big dose is because, how often throughout the day are you really visualizing your success with whatever it is that you're working on?
99% of the day, we're usually just reacting to whatever just happened.
Right.
Reacting to external stimuli.
Right. We're just doing. We're in the act of doing, rather than stopping and really thinking through, like, this is what it's going to be like to be success. Like, this is what success looks like. This is what success feels like, and really being in that. And when we do that, it's maybe for 10, 20 seconds at a time. And so you're like taking a bath in all of these positive feelings and rewiring those loops. Because like you mentioned a few minutes ago, we grow up with the patterns and loops that we are shown and given through our parents and our education and our local culture and all that. And you don't really have much of a choice when you're growing up. It's just what you're exposed to. And then as we become adults and we start to want to seek out success or certain things, oftentimes we bump up against things that we can't identify. And more often than not, these are those loops and patterns that we were kind of given that we then have to rewire in order to actually achieve success. And this is really common in business. Conversation you and I had, I think yesterday, was, getting good at business is basically just getting over your own shit. It's basically forced personal development. If you really want to excel, it's unpacking all those things, those issues you have with money, around your value and what you're worthy of achieving and all those things. These are all the issues that we kind of inherit and then have to rewire. So that 20-minute portion is that bath of rewiring that happens. So you start off with the journaling, you then go into that powerful statement, then you go into the breath to prime your brain, and then you spend 20 minutes just feeling the feelings of winning over and over and over again. Then you start your day. So you feel amazing going into your day. And what happens is now the guidance that we say is for the rest of the day, whenever you feel the opposite feeling, right? Something that's contradictory to that awesome feeling that you set yourself up with in the beginning, correct it, change it, and remind yourself. And some people, it's helpful to say like, hey, thanks, but no thanks. That's not me anymore. I'm now this other person. Whatever version of that, or like, hey, that's not important to me anymore. That doesn't matter anymore. Whatever it is, it's just rewiring and replacing those loops with healthier loops. And it is incredibly powerful in helping someone like really get past the actual things that are holding them back in business, because tactics are awesome and they're a big part of being good at business is, deploying the right tactics at the right time and so on, and building your business correctly. But the difference in someone doing that and not doing that is usually because of what's going on between their ears.
Right. So step 1 is journaling, and you use the prompts from the holistic psychologist, or what is it called?
Yeah. Holistic psychologist. Yeah. Dr. Nicole
Step
LePera.
2 is revisiting the vision of who they're becoming and the type of person that they want to be, this huge vision. And then what you took me through was steps 3 and 4. After step 3, this breath work, I felt like I started the show off, I felt high as shit. I was so euphoric. And when I closed my eyes and I was holding my breath, I just saw like nothing but white light. And I just felt like so much energy pulsing through my body. Right. And it just felt incredible. So if you catch me like going into the bathroom a bunch throughout the day, like sneaking away, I'm probably getting high in the bathroom. I'm probably doing
getting high on your own supply.
Yeah, man. And then in step 4, I just had an amazing time going through my perfect day. And something interesting happened where I just realized, maybe re-realized, that for me to be just extremely happy, it is so achievable. Like my perfect day is so simple, and it would be very cheap to achieve, and I could do it all the time, really. I could have it like several times a month. I could have a absolutely perfect day. And then the next part, where I'm visualizing challenges that are going on in my life, I visualize this. I have to create about 40 to 60 minutes of script for some videos that we're shooting. So it's a huge project. And every time I do them, I get into such a flow state, and it's one of my favorite activities, period. It's like so creative for me. However, when I'm thinking about it beforehand, a lot of times I will feel a little bit stressed and overwhelmed because it's such a big project.
Sure.
And going through this experience, I felt like I was priming the pump. Like I just saw myself enjoying it, laughing, just crushing it. And at the end of it, us having the highest quality videos that we've ever shot, and it having a really big impact on the business. And so now I'm thinking about it being out of the experience, and I'm like, this is no big deal. Like I'm gonna do it like I always do. I'm gonna have a fun time, and it's gonna be great. And so now I get to, like, my experience on the way to starting this project is so much better. Like I'm have no stress, and I know that once I actually sit down to do it, my thinking is gonna be clearer because I've already primed myself to think that way.
You nailed it. That's exactly the intention.
So after doing this type of morning routine for however long you've been doing it, what kind of long-term effects have you seen?
Just overall, your state, you're in a happier place. You're an emotionally healthier person because you're replacing some of these less than optimal loops with much healthier loops. And, you start to realize that some of these projects that intimidate you or stress you out, or maybe it's you have a really poor relationship with money, or historically had, that you are actually in control of all of this. So many of us, struggle with like a version of like being a victim almost when we first are encountering these things, like, oh, well, this is just how I grew up and this is all I know, or I don't know how to do that yet, or that's for you because of whatever excuse, and we do that. And whether you realize it or not, that's oftentimes why some of these activities are really challenging. And the reality is you can do whatever you want. You are responsible for choosing your own experience, nobody else. You can completely change how you experience your life and what you do with your life. And this is really just a series of little exercises that you can do on a daily basis that are conditioning. I mean, it's a workout, with the outcome being you become mentally and emotionally fitter.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about your new company. You're just starting your new company called Gym Breakthrough, and you have a really interesting concept. You're very focused on transformation rather than just providing people with information. Right. So talk about the distinction there and how you came to that, solution.
Sure. So I've been doing this for a long time.
What is this?
Coaching gym owners specifically, and helping people in the fitness space build the business they want to build. And, over the last 10 years, in doing so, I've experimented with so many different methods of teaching and programs and, and providing information via various different podcasts, from Barbell Business to Gym Right, and, the various other companies and projects over the years. And, there's a lot to be said about creating and providing useful information for people. But ultimately what it comes down to is the application of that. And, I'm watching this industry and participating in this industry now for over a decade, where I see such passionate people, put their entire life on the line here financially to start a business and, take that big risk, take that leap to do something meaningful and make an impact in their market and, get out of their 9 to 5 and do something that they love, only to flounder and struggle because of an industry that is wrought with misinformation and misguidance. And so when I sold Gym Right last year, and officially that was done this year as of November 1, or last year, 2019, I made a commitment that, sure, we can still provide information for people, but our purpose, our mission is to actually make the changes happen. So I completely rewrote the way, the program and the way that we teach the program and the course material, and all of that was restructured around helping people actually really implement and make these changes as you go. So this is not like a passive, you just kind of go through the program like a regular e-course and you're going to learn some things and apply what you want when it's convenient. It is a roll your sleeves up intensive where we are here to legitimately break through and help you build the business that you intended to build in the first place, that you will actually love to own and make a great living doing it.
Boom. So what kind of comes to mind for me is I've been learning a lot about learning recently. And one thing that I've learned is that when we just read something or we just watch something or we just listen to something, the amount of information that we retain is just super, super low. Like when we're reading, it's like a maximum of like 30%, I think. I don't know. Obviously, there are going to be exceptions to that rule. But when we take an action, we retain almost all of it, right? So information plus action is incredibly powerful. However, if you just take a single action, how much impact, how much can you actually achieve? So I feel like what you're doing is you're helping people learn information, take that information and take action, but then turn those actions into habits that make it inevitable that gym owners succeed.
100%. A big part of what we do, the mindset piece and all that stuff is huge for us. But another component to it is their ability to operate effectively and execute on their highest priority items consistently. That's really what gets you the progress. Mm-hmm. And what you're talking about is, not just about learning a concept and saying, oh yeah, that makes sense. Awesome. But then immediately kind of being forced to apply it and start practicing it. But we install it. We design an operating system for the gym owner that is going to help them make sure they get all of their things done and get them done better with less stress, faster, because we teach them how to prioritize their time. It's a combination of time blocking and deep work and all these.
I want to get into
various
that
methods.
in a little bit. Yeah.
And it's really powerful. And the reason we do that is because we want them to practice it, right? It doesn't matter if you're not great at it. No one's great at anything when you first start, or most of us aren't. I'm not. And it just takes practice. You just have to start doing it. And when you just start, and then you get a couple reps under your belt, you get some more clarity, you get some more insight, and we can start to refine it rather than let's go through the course and then you can go and apply it and let me know if you have any questions. I just got tired of that. And, so many people struggle with the actual implementation piece. So we just made it the way that we do the program.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier during the visualization exercise that, tactics are great, but now you're taking things to a new level. Now you're really focused on helping people clarify their vision and their purpose. And for a lot of our relationship, we've gotten on dozens of calls and you've helped me with the tactics, right? We've talked about marketing funnels and sales, and the tactics in this industry like no one I've ever come across.
Thanks,
Why did you make the switch to, and obviously you're not throwing away tactics because we have to utilize tactics to do anything, but why is the focus for you so much on vision and purpose?
It's because it's what I found actually gets people to the other side. I can write, we can sit here and we can work through your business and figure out where you are and what's working and not working, and then create a whole new blueprint of all the right systems and tactics and things you need to be doing on a marketing level and retention and all that. But you know what? If you are not implementing it consistently, wholeheartedly, like this is your reason for waking up in the morning, then you're not really going to get to the other side, or you're not going to get the optimal outcome. You're not going to get what's really possible. And I just got tired of seeing people who really wanted it, but weren't getting the outcome. So we just started. For me personally, this has been a journey and something that I've personally been working on much more intensively over the last few years. And I'm just bringing more of that into what we do. And we just see, incredible results where people really, they fix how they've been viewing their business and how they view what they're capable of and what they're doing, right? Because a lot of people get into this and they think, I want to help people. This made such a big difference in my life. I want to spread the love. And that's awesome. But that's not clear enough for you to actually make the impact that you feel in your heart. So we're giving people the tools to take what they have in their heart and translate that into a working business. Then we just plug the tactics that match that in.
Right. Yeah. I feel like tactics are, well, if creating a vision is like taking a map and saying, I'm here and in a year, I want to be over there, then a tactic is like, I'm here, turn left, right? It might get you closer to somewhere, but at the end of the day, you don't have a direction that you're really headed. If you have the end destination, then the tactics can just help you get to that specific destination. If you don't clarify where you're going in the first place, then in a year or 2 or 10, you may just be really disappointed where you end up.
Yeah. And how many people do you know who get into business with like big hopes and dreams, and then it's 3 years, 5 years, 10 years later, and they're still alive, but they're not thriving. They're not really there. They're not executing on that big thing that got them to start this game in the first place. And that's frustrating that we lose so many awesome coaches and people who have this vision and want to do something unique and make this impact. We lose so many great people to poor business models and poor execution and poor mindset because, we all start somewhere, right? It takes practice and it takes intention on, focusing on the right things. And, I wish I would have learned some of these things earlier on in my career. I could have saved myself years and years and years of struggle and figuring things out on my own too, and so we're trying to help people do that and cut through that stuff and get to what they've really set out to do in the first place.
Is there, and I know this could be a huge exercise, but do you have any words of wisdom for people that want to start clarifying their vision over the next year or 2? How do you start with people?
Well, we take them through a whole series of exercises that we found help clarify the different aspects of it. But long story short, we want to figure out, what role do you want this business to play in your life, right? So what does success look like for you as an owner of this business? Not just X amount of members or dollars. It's, what role do you want this business to play in your life? And that's part of with some of that perfect day stuff that we include. But then we want to figure out, well, now what does success look like for the business as its own thing? And then success for your staff and for your community and so on. And we need to identify what success means on all those different levels. And then figuring out, who is it that you really want to serve and can serve best, right? And identify the problem that you uniquely solve better than anyone else, right? What is it that you do better than anyone? And we all have our own version of something that we just uniquely are awesome at. And we need to figure out what that is.
I'll stop you real quick. Last night over dinner, we were talking about how a lot of gym owners say CrossFit is for everyone, right? And we're speaking to a lot of CrossFit gym owners, but gym owners of any type. A lot of people say, my gym is for everyone, and they'll just take anyone. Why is that potentially problematic?
It's a big challenge, and this is why so many gym owners struggle with their marketing, is that they are trying to please everyone. And the reality is that maybe your methodology would be technically beneficial to everyone, right? Everyone would benefit from good exercise and diet and all that. I mean, obvious, but the reality is that you have a type of person and a type of problem, or a specific version of this problem that you can solve better than anyone else. And that's what's going to make you unique. And the problem is that so many gym owners are treating their memberships and their services like, I mean, they're a commodity. That's why you can shop against, well, this guy's got 8 rowers, you only have 6. Why should I sign up here? Or, hey, they're $10 more than you, or whatever it is. And you get stuck in these really low value conversations. The reality is that you help people solve incredibly valuable and big problems in their life through your programs. So when you can learn how to once you've identified the problem that you solve really well, and you start creating content and messaging that reflects that, you're going to really resonate with those people. Now, you're still going to be able to serve other people, but those people are going to start being like magnetically drawn to what you're doing, and it's going to really resonate with them. And then therefore, when they then come in for their intro session, it's going to be much easier to connect with them and to sell them on, your various different programs. And it's not about for the sake of sales, it's for the sake of this business exists to make an impact and to help people. I am now able to help the people I can help the best easier, right? And it just fixes the whole marketing and sales issue, all the short-term retention issues that people have with, people sign up and 3 to 6 months later they leave. Has a lot to do with the reason why they signed up. And you want people to sign up because they're solving a problem, not because, oh, it's a gym membership that's a good deal, or, I got a good price on this thing, or whatever novel, surface level reason. You want people to be buying for the reason that is their problem that you are solving. And that is what gets people to buy in on a much deeper level and ultimately makes you priceless. It doesn't matter how many gyms are in your area now, because you do your thing uniquely well. And that's what makes you different as, CrossFit ABC versus CrossFit XYZ. That's, a block away.
What do you mean by that, solving a problem?
Well, here's the reality. People usually go looking for a gym because they're like, I got to lose these 20 pounds, or I've got a wedding coming up, or whatever, like more surface level reason. But the reality is that there's a much deeper issue there that they don't even realize is what's causing this thing, and would actually be a huge, make a huge improvement to so many aspects of their life, right? Like let's look at like a well-run CrossFit gym. It's not about helping people lose weight. You are literally helping people completely rewrite their relationship with fitness and movement and nutrition and their mindset around this. Their relationship with that their well-being goes from being something that they were afraid of, intimidated by. I'm not good at this. I'm not an athlete. And all these like terrible stories that a lot of us grow up with. And you give them the opportunity to actually fall in love with and look forward to going to the gym. And I'm not on diets anymore. I just know how to eat right because it feels good for me. Like, you are doing incredibly powerful things that don't just make them healthier, because once they're healthier and they're emotionally better off, this affects their relationships, this affects their careers, this affects how they parent. And I mean, the impact is incredibly profound, right? And it's not 20 pounds. So tapping into that well of like the real reasons why someone is doing this and how it's affecting their life, to not having solved this problem yet, and how, once you've resolved it, like what that life would be like. Now you're cooking with gas. Now people are going to really feel like you are here for them to help them get to this goal and solve this problem. And that makes you priceless. Now you're not just another gym membership. You're not the first thing to get cut when money gets tight or they get busy.
Right. When you solve especially when you solve multiple problems for people.
Right.
You also work with people on their mental and emotional obstacles. What are the most common things that you're seeing holding back gym owners in between their ears?
A lot of value issues, right? So the value they place on themselves and their programs, which when you ask them, they'll talk about, we're a premium service and what we do is so good and we're, the best coaches and this and that. And that may be true, but yet they are low barriering their initial intro offers, and they're lowballing their price points. They're not charging what they can even charge what they need to charge to survive. Like they're flatlining their businesses because they're too afraid to ask for more because, well, then I'll be the most expensive game in town, or people won't pay that for this. Their relationship with their value is often really unhealthy. And that then goes on to poor relationships with money and just finances. A lot of people have a lot of fear around sales, market, creating content and putting themselves out there and being vulnerable. So, I mean, there's a whole slew there's so many different people with different versions of this, but those are the main areas.
How much of this piece of it came from your personal experience versus the hundreds or thousands of coaching calls that you've been on?
Honestly, probably all of it. I mean, I've been through this journey myself. I mean, from building my gym and running my gym and eventually selling my gym to the many other companies that I've built over the years. There's been a lot of growing pains and a lot of lessons. And, I draw from all that and mix that with my experiences in, having coached people for the last decade. I've literally, 10,000 plus hours, like one-to-one coaching, teaches you a lot. And you see the patterns, you see what people commonly struggle with, and we practice resolving those issues and helping people get clear and get over these things and break through to the other side.
So earlier, again, going back to when we were talking about the visualization, you mentioned how in business, it is just so important. It's almost inevitable that it becomes like a game of personal development. What are your thoughts on like how it can hold people back if they have an area or multiple areas of their life that are left untended? Like, can we be as success? Like, can we reach our full potential in one area, say business, as a gym owner, if we are untending our marriage or untending our physical health or our financial life? What are your thoughts on that?
Full potential? No. You can get really far. There's lots of wildly successful entrepreneurs, putting up hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue or whatnot, that have terrible relationships and unresolved issues at home and whatnot. But you can get really far by overdeveloping one thing, but I think it's a lot like fitness, right? In that you can overdevelop one thing, but you are pretty fragile out of that element. Right? Like someone who just gets really, really, really strong, but never addresses their mobility, their balance, any of these other aspects. They may be really strong at moving things in a certain pattern, but you have the guy run around the building, he'll black out. Probably not that great in real life. So if your goal is just to be really good at that one thing, go ahead and develop the crap out of it. But most people aren't doing it because they just want to win the game of business. It's because they want to enjoy their lifestyle. They want to have the quality time and the ability to be present with their family and to travel and, to influence the next round of coaches in the industry and make an impact that way too. When you really peel back the onion, most people want to do something that involves a lot of these different areas. So I think you need to do the work eventually. It's going to come up at some point. No matter what, right? If you really are actively working on anything, we usually start with one thing. It gets a little overdeveloped. You realize that something was not taken care of. Like you just focused on your business and you got a little out of shape and you're not as fit as you want to be. And then you got to kind of pull that back into balance by being better about your time with work. And then it's a boundary thing with your relationships at home and all that. It'll reveal itself as you go, but I don't think you'll ever hit your full potential without addressing the other areas too.
Yeah, and I feel like being successful in business has a lot to do with energy management, right? So task priority management and task management are, they're involved in a bigger picture of energy management. And I think that if you have shitty relationships or you have poor physical health, then you're really not going to be able to produce as much as if you're in complete alignment. And I think that people that aren't living a holistic life, sure, there are tons of exceptions, but I think the majority of people, they can't sustain effort long term if they're not living holistically.
Well, yeah. How well do you do at work, the day while you're having like turmoil at home with your wife,
I can't think straight.
Right.
I
You're
really
totally
can't.
distracted. It's drawing from that energy. So how would you possibly expect to perform at your best when you have these like energy distractions happening in your life? And yeah, there are some people who like can turn it off, but I know some of those people, and those people all end up getting to a place to where they're like, I am deeply unhappy that I can't maintain a relationship, you know, and then they have to go do a bunch of deep work in that area now. So it's an inevitability at some point. If you want to live a happy life means you're addressing all the important areas of your life and they're all relatively healthy.
Yeah, it kind of seems like in strength training, you could be incredibly aggressive with your periodization, right? You could just do super high percentages all the time. And if you're a beginner, you're going to get stronger very rapidly, right? But that's going to go until a point that you get injured, and then you have to take a ton of time off. Maybe you never come back from it. And then at the end of the day, in the long term, if you really zoom out, did you actually move faster than if you would have taken a slower approach, done the minimal viable
Viable product or effort.
Effort, yes. I think work is the same way.
I totally agree. I mean, draw that same parallel now with business, right? People get into business and they're like, I'm going to go 1,000%. I'm going to like burn the boats, burn every bridge to make this thing work, only to burn themselves out and then give up and then say, oh, you know, business ownership is too hard, or this market is too hard, or whatever it is. And it's like, look, you just were unrealistic with how you approached it. Like, yes, there is definitely a very high output required at first to turn nothing into something, but then you need to get into long game mode and think about like, how am I going to actually get to where I'm trying to go? And that's through a sustainable approach, not through these like this nonstop thrash yourself grind that so many people just get stuck in, right? I mean, I get on the phone with gym owners who are 3 years, 5 years in, and they're still in that like grind or die mindset, just thrashing themselves, totally burned out. Adrenals are worked. Like they can barely work out anymore because they're so thrashed. And it's like, well, what's the point of that? You don't have the energy. They're like, I'm sick of coaching classes. I'm tired. My staff is ungrateful. Whose fault is all of that? That's you. You are the reason why. You burned yourself out. Your cup is empty and broken on the floor, and you expect to be able to pour into a staff and have a healthy dynamic there, and be able to help the hundreds of people that you have in your ecosystem to be that source of confidence and of progress and all that, when you're totally empty, you're wrecked. Right? It's not doable.
So we've talked about the importance of vision and purpose and just being really clear about who you are, what matters to you as a business, and where you're headed. However, you can have the perfect plan and be crystal clear about where you want to go. But if you can't execute on that plan, then you're kind of fucked. So let's talk about priority management. What are you doing personally, as well as what are you teaching gym owners?
So productivity and just being effective has been something I've put a lot of energy into learning about for many years, and something we can get pretty nerdy on. But for what we teach, we've developed an operating system built largely around time blocking and deep work and just priority management in general, to where we help gym owners basically identify what like a perfect month looks like as far as operation. And we then help them turn that into a like weekly and then daily system, and then show them how to actually work through that stuff in a way to where they're actually getting more done in less time and with less stress. And I know that sounds, like some cheesy like marketing or something, but that's the truth. Because what we do is we say, okay, well, what are all the things that it takes for you to get an A in your business every month? So we create this huge list, right?
What are some of the most common things that are like highest priority tasks for gym owners?
Well, for example, like creating content daily, getting your newsletter done on time. We are doing our featured member. It's our sales pipeline management. It's our reporting of our KPIs.
So do you have them list every task they're responsible for?
Every single thing that happens within the business in order for them to be successful,
and
whether they do it or not.
Also having them write out tasks outside of the business? because those can creep into work productivity as well. So like I got to pick up my kids at school and all of that kind of stuff.
We talk about that after, but I start with just the business first,
Okay.
just because that's a whole another can of worms.
Okay.
So we say, okay, the step one is let's make a list of all the things that need to happen in order for you to get an A. Great. And whether you do it or someone else on your team does it, what are all the things that need to happen? Once we have that identified, we say, okay, now let's say how long does it take to complete each individual task if you were able to do it in one shot? And then we add a little buffer to that to make sure we've got wiggle room. And then we say, all right, now when does that need to be completed in order for it to be done on time without stress? So I'll give you an example. So let's say you send your monthly newsletter out on the 1st every month and you have Steve on your team takes care of that for you. Cool. Steve should probably not be submitting the newsletter to you for review in the last week right before it's supposed to go out, because you have no time to make corrections, or oh my gosh, you left the section out, or this is the wrong image, or whatever. You are now going to be under stress if there are changes that need to be made. So rather than saying, okay, it needs to be done on let's say the 4th week of the month, let's have Steve deliver it to you by the 3rd week of the month, or even the 2nd week of the month. So that way you have time to review it. He can make the changes, you can re-review and approve, and then deploy it without stress. So we have all the tasks listed. We know how much time it's going to take to complete each one, plus a buffer added to it. And then we say, now this is when it needs to be completed. So if it's date specific, put the date. If it's in week 1, 2, 3, or 4, do the rest that way. Or if it's a daily or a weekly task, you label it accordingly. And then we say, okay, now who's responsible for completing this? Because some of the tasks you may do as an owner, and if you're new or you're a one-man or one-woman show, maybe they're all you at first. But if you have people who are helping you, we say, okay, well, Steve, for example, is doing the newsletter. So anything that is delegated has to have a management component to it. So if, let's say, Steve does the newsletter, you can't just let Steve do the newsletter and submit it and be done, or just write it and hit send. There needs to be a quality control of some kind. How can you manage something that you're not measuring, right? So we install a time slot also for, well, how long does it take you to review the newsletter? Oh, it takes me 15 minutes. Cool. That needs to be added on as a time slot. So we add all those on. And then now we have what we're doing, estimated time, who's responsible for it, and when it needs to be done without stress. And then we lay it into a monthly template. And now we have it laid into week 1, 2, 3, or 4. And what we do is we say, okay, before we start just laying things out, let's group them together. So let's create 5 categories for 5 working days as a healthy starting point. Even if you work 7 days, you don't need to be grinding like this 7 days a week. Let's just do 5 good days. 5 categories where we can lump together key like activities. So, sales and marketing would be one, and business management could be one, member communications could be one, and so on. So we come up with these 5 categories, and then we theme the day. So we're going to say, what is the most challenging for you, Michael? Maybe it's the marketing. Sales and marketing is the hardest one for you. That should be your Monday.
Got it.
And starting from the beginning of the week to the end, we're going to go from progressively more challenging to easier. So
before we go on, some people call this batching,
right?
Like combining similar tasks or similar tasks together. Why is this important?
Cognitive switching. So the whole idea of multitasking, and this is such a big problem in the whole entrepreneurial space, that this is it's almost a badge of honor to be running around with like a chicken with your head cut off. And I do everything every day, and it's just
so accessible all the time to everyone.
And it's just look, that may feel good to say because everyone else says that, and it's this badge of honor people want to wear. But the reality is you are not even remotely as close to as effective as someone who sits down, gets into one zone, and then just crushes everything in that state. So imagine you start your day and you say, okay, today I've got to do my newsletter, I've got to do payroll, and then I've got to write this blog post. Those are 3 totally different headspaces. And every time that you start a new activity, it takes you, 15, 20, 30 minutes to really get in the zone, right? Then you're in the zone and you say, cool, now I finished my newsletter. Now I'm going to switch to finance. You have to completely shift gears mentally to get into finance mode and to plug into that. What people don't realize is that first you have to get out of creative mode, and then you have to ramp up your, let's say, finance mode. And you lose 15, 20, 30 minutes of wind down and then wind up. So you really lost probably like 45 minutes in that transition before you really start becoming effective again, right? You might be checking boxes, but are you really doing your best work? Probably not. And what's the point of doing shitty work? You're not going to build anything meaningful if you're just doing a bunch of shitty work or a bunch of things just okay. We want to do things really well. That's how we make things, right? It's about less but better. And so when you do that, you look at your day, by the end of the day, if you switch between 3, 4, 5 categories like so many people do, you've lost hours of time that you could have been much more productive. So instead, batch all of your creative work for one day, sit down for 3, 4 hours, crush all that stuff, get it done because you get into one state and you're just in the zone, knock it all out, and then you're done. And then you have your finance day and you burn through all your numbers and you get all that stuff handled, get all your reporting cleaned up. And it allows you to get more work done. And because you're in that zone, you get it done faster because you're not having to shift gears constantly. And I mean, that's the long and short. That's why it works.
Dude, when I started Brute, so I went from being a strength and conditioning coach where I just showed up and like worked people out, right? And I had been a coach for years. I had no idea about knowledge work and working online and setting my own hours and that whole thing. I was so insanely busy. Like I was sleeping at, I was planning to buy a gym from Tommy Hackenbrook, who I think you know. I was planning to buy a gym and we had just started Brute. I slept at the office or the gym like 3 or 4 nights a week and I would just work through the night. So I was insanely busy and I got nothing done, man. I just had no idea how to be productive in this world that we live in. Learning priority management and task management has been literally life-changing to me, because even as I learned how to be more productive when I sat down to work, what I continued to experience for years is when I would stop working, I was constantly thinking about all of the things that I had to do. It wasn't until I created a system or found a system that I could rely on that I wouldn't forget about anything. And I just relied. I knew that at some point when I sat down at work, I was going to get everything done. I was just constantly caught up in my head about all of the things that I had to do.
Sure.
It's been life-changing for me.
Well, what that is that you're using your brain incorrectly. Our brain is for processing, not for like storing open loops.
Right.
And when you store a bunch of open loops in your brain, it takes up a ton of bandwidth, and you are not able to concentrate and be as effective when you've got all these open loops. And so many business owners, and gym owners in particular, they just think they need to like keep it all in their head and just remember all this stuff, and like they pride themselves in like, it's all me and I'm doing all this. But at the end of the day, it's like, look, you being completely caught up in your business at home and on the weekends and not being present for your spouse or your kids or whatever else is important to you, like you are doing yourself and them a major disservice. Like you're missing out on your life by being distracted. That's not okay. That's not healthy to be doing that. That's a side effect of you not having a system that you can rely on.
Yeah.
And that's why we built this operating system, and we get all of our gyms on it, because it was the common ground between all the most successful gyms that we had helped were the ones that implemented this. Because what happens is you have a happier owner. And when the owner is happier, they fall back in love with their business, and they love what they do because it's not consuming them, and they're not miserable all the time and stressed out, and the reason we do the whole, like, take everything and put it on a calendar, and we create these time blocks where basically everything is spoken for. So, hey, it's week 3, it's Tuesday, it's my finance day. I've got these 4 things I'm going to knock out. I have all the time necessary set aside to complete all those things, plus wiggle room. So I'm going to not only for sure get all my stuff done, but I may even make some like proactive, like new progress on, hey, I've been meaning to create a new reporting spreadsheet I've been meaning to get to. Or I want to like reorganize our memberships or something. You can actually do new things in that time while you're in the zone. But then when you're done, because everything else it's on the schedule and it's accounted for. So I can now just go and be present with my members and my staff and then my family and all that, which just completely changes your experience.
So what are some of the biggest culprits? What are some of the biggest things that get in people's way of being productive?
I think just starting with being reactionary to everything. They don't work in a place First of all, you can being just reacting to your day every day is a recipe for failure, because you are showing up just like, all right, what do you got for me today?
Yeah, just like opening your email and just doing work that way.
Right, like waking up in the morning and just like getting into your email, into your social media, like for so many of us, before our feet even hit the floor. Like that is an incredibly unhealthy practice. Like, stop doing that. These are things you should be setting specific time aside for, so you can sit down, do it with intention, and be done with it. And so many people just react all day, and then they're like, oh, I don't have any time to get anything done. Well, what's more important? Responding to all these things that technically could actually wait, or for you to know that you're going to get an A in running your business this month? Do that first and go do it somewhere where you have no excuse. Turn your phone off, turn your email off, don't get on social media, be somewhere where no one's going to interrupt you, and hammer through the work. You're going to feel awesome about yourself because you're like, you're getting your stuff done. So you're running your business well, your business is going to run better. And now you have the ability to actually be present for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the best way to lump them together is like communication apps or platforms. So text messages, emails, social media, and even people coming and interrupting you are catastrophic to being productive.
100%.
If we're constantly, like, every time something gets a little bit challenging or boring or whatever, we go check text, or we call someone, or we're checking email, and we just go through that loop over and over and over with our social media in there, we can never get any meaningful work done.
Right. And when you have all these little notifications going off all day, like even something as simple as a text message, let's say you're in the zone and you're writing that blog article, and then a text message goes off and you look at it and you're like, oh, so-and-so's texting me about this. And then I'll do a little response. You think it's a harmless little 30-second break. But now when you get back to your blog article, you are no longer in that same state. You have to rewind back up. Now, maybe it's not from 0 to 100 and it's only from 50 to 100, but you just lost a lot of time. And people don't realize how many interruptions they actually have between the text message and the Facebook notification. And then a member walks into the gym and is like, hey, whatever, or a solicitor. These are all derailing us and keeping us from our main priorities.
What do you do with your phone when you're working?
I airplane mode it and put it somewhere where I can't even see it.
What about when you're at your home?
When I'm at my home?
Yeah. Do you like just keep it in your pocket, or do you have any rules around your technology?
Well, on my technology, I don't have email or social media on my phone.
Awesome.
So it doesn't
Same
even go
here.
off.
I fucking love it, man.
Unless you're calling me and you have my
Life-changer.
number, in which case it's on silent in the kitchen. Because when I'm home, I'm home. I'm with my kids. I'm with my wife and doing that.
It's powerful, man. So give me some details about the 12-week program that you have.
Yeah, so we've developed a 12-week intensive for gym owners who are, this is for people who are passionate about what they do and really want to build a business that's going to stand the test of time. So this is not like some of the other things that are available in the industry, which they serve their purpose too. But this is for people who feel like they've been beating their head against the wall. They know they've got something that they're doing that's special, and they want to build a business that reflects that. And they just haven't figured out their formula yet.
Before you go on, I feel like anyone listening to that thinks like, oh, I'm that way. I'm passionate. I want to build a business that stands the test of time. But what makes them qualified to work with you?
Well, people who are coachable, people who are willing to do the work, people who are, when I do the breakthrough call, like the initial call with someone where we're learning about them and, where they're at with their business and what their goals are and all that, I'm trying to also learn about where they are and the type of person that they are. And it's not about right or wrong, but I want to make sure that I am setting you up for success and myself up for success, and that we can have a home run together. And, I need people. We want to work with the people who are motivated and willing to do the work and are willing to say, hey, I'm willing to, for the next 3 months, roll my sleeves up and get this thing on track. This is not for the faint-hearted. This is not a passive program. This is not I'll go through it and see what happens. This is I want to get to the other side and I'm ready to do the work. And
yeah,
so
it doesn't sound like an on the side type of course.
Absolutely.
Like after hours. It sounds like very immersive.
Yeah, like we said in the beginning, this is about transformation, not about information. I'm not here to teach you about, this is a great on-ramp program or whatever. This is specifically to you about figuring out who you are, where you want to go, and then getting your business to actually match that specific version of success. Because I don't care what anyone will tell you. I've been doing this long enough. There is no one size fits all or one definition of success in this industry. There are so many little variations in this business model. And the reality is that most people are just playing the wrong game. You know, you're basically like trying to win chess playing with checkers rules. You literally can't win. And they're wondering like, why isn't this working? Everyone else is doing the same thing. Well, it's because everyone else is floundering too. And they're all just kind of blind leading the blind. And the reality is that you have a specific version. You have something unique about what you're trying to do. And we need to figure out what that is and be able to articulate that in our messaging, and then make sure that the sales, marketing, engagement, retention, retail, all these pillars within the business all reflect that in a way that it's all one clear picture. It's all one consistent story. And it's not just this like Frankenstein together, like, you know, this is the on-ramp program I use because this is what they did at the gym that I went to. And I heard on this podcast, this cool sales method. And then, you know, I read this blog post about retail and how to do that better. So I'm doing that version. We all start there, right? That's going from zero to something. But then to go from good to great requires optimization. Things need to be running optimally. It's not just about that's good enough. We need to go from good enough to awesome and making sure we have one congruent story.
I love it, man. Well, I'm not a gym owner, but if I was, you'd be the guy I would go to. I've been in this industry now, I don't know, 6-ish years. And I know that trust is built over time. And I got a good vibe from you the first time we hung out, but over the years, I've just seen you be so fucking consistent with your ethics, with your morals, and with the pointed advice that you've given me. I just have so much trust in you, man. And it's been a pleasure to see you evolve over the years. And I'm excited to see what this new company brings you, man.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for the kind words, man. Feelings mutual, man. You show up with your A game. You try hard. You create things that really actually provide value to so many people's lives. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you, brother. Have a great day.
Awesome, man. Thanks. You too.
Wait, before we go.
Where can you can edit that part out. That was a really shitty end. Go to gymbreakthrough.com. You can look us up on social media. You can find me, Markus Gerszi, on social media. You can either find my Facebook profile or the Gym Breakthrough profile, whatever works for you.
Dope. You can find me on Instagram. I probably won't check it, but I'm there. Later, guys. This episode is also brought to you by Jumbo CBD. If you're not already on the CBD train, then I'm sure you've at least heard of it before, because many people thought in the beginning that this was just a legal way to get high. And unfortunately for some of you, you can't get high on CBD. You can try, but you can't get high on it. On the other hand, it can help you sleep better. It can reduce stress and anxiety. It can be huge for pain relief and reducing inflammation. Personally, I've had knee pain for about 5 years now, and I haven't been able to figure out a way to get rid of it. I haven't figured out the root cause. I've worked with PTs and chiropractors, and I just haven't been able to eradicate it. So I have used some pain relieving techniques, and this is one of them. I've used Jumbo's extra strength 200 milligram balm, and it absolutely does not completely take the pain away, but it makes it manageable. It allows me to get into a deeper squat. It allows me to walk around and just go about my daily activities without feeling much pain at all. And whether that's placebo or not, I really don't care, because I just don't feel like I'm in as much pain. I've also used their sprays, and there's a really subtle relaxing effect to the sprays. So that's pretty great. It's helpful for sleep and reduces a little bit of like a feeling of tension in my chest, which I often call anxiety. It's great for athletes and recovery. And some specifics and what sets Jumbo apart is that they have 100% natural ingredients, full spectrum CBD sourced from Colorado and Oregon. They have CO2 extracted oils that are, I think, safer. They have therapeutic grade essential oils in a lot of their products, third-party lab tested, so it's legit. And they're one of the first CBD companies to post their lab results publicly. I also know the owners of this company very well. They're very close friends of mine, and I trust them deeply. Again, my favorite product of theirs is the 200 milligram extra strength balm. I've also used the sprays, but they also have drops and butters or ghee. I think ghee is like a butter type thing. So there's all sorts of different products. And they're offering you 15% off of anything in their store. And you can get access to that by going to jombocbd.com and use the code BRUTE in all caps. That's BRUTE in all caps. A couple more things. So a huge plus of their sprays and drops is that they use MCT oil. So since CBD is a fat soluble molecule, it binds with this oil and allows for much more rapid and effective absorption of the actual CBD. It also has essential oils that add flavor, and they bring their own proven health benefits as well. With the Muscle Bomb, since they use ghee as the base, again, ghee is like a butter type thing, the CBD is binding with the ghee fat, and it's able to be carried all the way to the bones. Ghee itself has amazing topical healing properties, and when CBD is added, the results can be pretty profound. So again, you can get access to this discount, 15% off of all of their products, by going to jombocbd.com and enter the code BRUTE, all caps, at checkout. Go get them.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Your journey towards better fitness continues. Head over to brutestrengthtraining.com to connect with Michael and his guests. Access links and resources mentioned in this episode, as well as bonus content exclusive to podcast listeners. That's brutestrengthtraining.com.